Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back. This is Jim Grisanzio from the Oracle Groundbreakers team. We're continuing our interviews here today for the Oracle Groundbreakers India Yatra, which is a massive 3-week conference that's wrapping up in the next couple of days. It's been going on for 3 weeks, and it's on cloud technologies and database technologies and Java and a bunch of other stuff, open source as well. And for right now, I'm here talking with one of the speakers, Phil Wilkins from the UK. Phil, welcome. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It's
Pleasure to be here.
it's good to see you. It's good to meet you. I'm specifically reaching out to speakers that I've never met before or that I've never interviewed before. And so I'm glad you responded and really interested to hear what you have to say. So before we get started, I have just, like I always do, basically ask people just to give me a quick summary of who you are, where you are, what you do, those kinds of things, and then we can jump in.
Yes, so I'm here in the UK, as you say, and I work for Capgemini UK as a global SI, and I am the UK's tech evangelist. Being an Oracle director kind of fits rather nicely into that. And I lead a lot of the sort of forward thinking and tech best practices for us. Um, as a ACE director, I get involved in a lot of the community stuff, particularly through the UK user group, um, and contributing to organising the conferences here in the UK, or online conferences. And I also participate in managing a developer meetup, which has gone virtual as well, given all the challenges with COVID.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. Okay. I see you're outside, and actually I'm inside. I wish I were outside right now, but it's raining here. And if but it'd be nice to do these outside actually, because I'm right next to the mountains here on this side. But I don't know if I can get good net connection up there. So okay, so you're doing a couple of talks at this conference, Groundbreakers Yatra, and the first one I see here on the list is what makes a good API. So let's talk about that. What's that about?
The core of the message is really about sitting back and thinking about actually what is it we're trying to achieve with APIs. We get very caught up quickly with the technologies, whether that's REST or SOAP or WSDL and so on. But actually, the important thing about an API is the ability to enable people to consume it. So it's about trying to draw people's attention to the fact we need to step back. Don't worry about the technology for a moment. Think about what it is you're trying to communicate, what data you're trying to share, how you want to share it, going to consume it, the nature of the data. So, we're in a world where data security and sensitivity is ever growing. So we've got personal protection and data legislation. So how does that affect how you handle it? How do you protect your systems from being swamped by demand? All those questions need to be really answered in a good API, even in an internal API. Um, in the world of cloud, we're into a zero trust sort of methodology. So how do you apply that sensibly within an organization?
Interesting. Is this a common practice in terms of designing these, or are these, things that you've learned over the years, sort of, best practices?
It's a combination of things. Some of it is through ongoing research and keeping track of some of the leading thinkers. Um, but a lot of it is accumulated experience, particularly around the practicalities of the design and definition of data and things like API versioning, uh, where it's very easy just to think about the here and now, but what happens in a year's time when you want to make a change. Uh, we've had a lot of experience working with big customers, uh, and helping them on their API journey and developing that. And of course, it's always reassuring to them if it's not just a Phil message, but actually, look, here it's backed up and proven as good practice by other players as well. so people feel a lot more assured that they're not being taken down a bespoke route, if you like.
Okay, cool. Is this talk primarily for developers, or is it suitable for DBAs as well?
It's suitable to DBAs and to developers. In today's world, we can do APIs, particularly REST APIs, almost with any technology. Oracle has all ORDs in the database, and then we go to the other end of the spectrum, and you can talk about the OCI API gateway and what that offers. Whilst I'm not focusing on those particular products, it's worth thinking about, how do I leverage these to achieve the goals that we should be thinking about, like the security, like rate limiting, which protects your back end from being swamped. Whilst we talk about cloud elasticity, it still takes seconds to spin up new instances of machines or containers. Obviously, the database cloud service, whilst it scales beautifully, it is not an instantaneous reaction to load. So what do you do to manage the demands so that you can react and continue to give a quality of service?
Interesting. Okay, so it's good that it's for both, because I'm finding more and more of these talks really are suitable for DBAs and developers, because these people are working in teams, and a lot of these functions actually blend to one degree or another, and so that's good to hear. The second talk you did was actually also API related. What was that about? You said gRPC and REST APIs.
So that's a little bit more developer-centric. We've seen over the last 5-10 years REST become the predominant technology, but we've seen a couple of other technologies come up. gRPC being one, or Google RPC, as it stands for, and GraphQL. So the question becomes, okay, what's the right answer for me now? Which technology should I choose? Because not every technology is suitable for every use case. So we step back, we look at actually what are the differences and the pros and cons of each of the different ones, and then provide some insights into what we would recommend as an adoption patterns. When's GraphQL better? What are the risks that you've got to avoid GraphQL, because you can design it to be a lot broader and offer data entities and operations on data entities. It becomes very easy to map that straight to your database. That comes with risks. You change your database, you risk impacting your GraphQL, which means you impact your consumer, and that's where we want to avoid. So it talks about, tomorrow we'll be talking about some of those things and the considerations behind it. All of these technologies are available on the Oracle stack, whether it's through IaaS, or through some of the PaaS offerings.
Cool. Okay, so that's tomorrow, right?
Yes, that's tomorrow.
And what makes a good API? Did you already do that one? Because we're
No,
at the end
that's this afternoon. So in
Oh,
a
okay,
couple of
this afternoon.
hours.
Okay, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask you, how did it go? So, okay, to come. Okay, cool, very good. Have you presented? Have you interacted, presented to the Indian community ever before?
This is the first time for me. Being UK based, I do a lot of presenting around Europe. I do a little bit in the US, particularly when Open World presents an opportunity. Having just become an ACE director this last year, the opportunities to travel a little bit more have opened up, but at the end of the day, I've got to be mindful of the fact that I work for a consultancy, and our bread and butter is talking to customers.
Right.
and working with customers, so I have to balance my travel commitments for presenting with practical day-to-day demand.
Right, exactly. I I've been pretty involved with the Indian community, and so they're a very smart bunch. And they're very interactive as well. So hopefully you'll have a good turnout and some good conversations with these talks. You mentioned Oracle ACE Director, so that's something recent that you became?
Yes, so I was nominated last year by another ACE director, Simon Haslam, and that was acknowledged at the UK AUG conference in December last year. So that was lovely to see to receive the recognition of the contributions I've been making into the community. And obviously it opens up some doors because we get the support and engagement and encouragement from Oracle to try and reach further afield, if you like. So one of the benefits of everything becoming a bit more virtualized at the moment is the participation in Yatra and being online to actually participate in the Latin America conference later in the year.
Right, right. And there's actually going to be an Asian tour as well. I'm sure there'll be a European tour actually at the end of the year. Many of these groundbreaker tours. But the current situation, I think, solves your travel problem that you mentioned a little bit earlier.
It certainly does. It makes it very interesting because you get to meet and talk to people that you perhaps wouldn't get the chance to talk to. The meetups that we've been running, we've taken those virtual and collaborating with other Oracle meetups more around Europe. But the collaboration has been phenomenal, and the diversity of people that seems to be being drawn in is fascinating. So it's created some interesting opportunities, although meeting people physically creates opportunities for conversations that you wouldn't have otherwise. The virtual does mean that we've been able to reach out and experience conversations with other communities.
Yeah, I definitely have experienced some divergent I have some divergent feelings about this. I mean, I've met a lot of new people like this, which is great, but I'm sitting here in the kitchen, so it's just that it's good, because you can actually get to many more people, but there's a certain shield there. It's flat, I mean, it's a screen, but it is what we have to deal with at this point. So you also mentioned that you've been involved, and I actually reading here in your bio, you've done some book reviews and things like that, and you're writing books as well, right?
That's right, yes. So I got involved with Pact Publishing 15 years ago, and I've been helping out as a book reviewer, as a peer reviewer before the book's published. I've been very fortunate to review some great authors. David Huffinger, for example, who's highly respected in the Java community. So it's great. It's a learning opportunity. It's a great thing to also be able to feed back and ask questions of the author or offer suggestions. But that developed into writing myself must have been about 5 years ago now, or nearly 5 years ago, when ICS came out. I co-authored a book on ICS, which is now part of OIC, the Integration Cloud. And then a couple of years ago, I got to work with Lewis Weir, who's well known in the API space, as an ACE director. In fact, the reason I work at Capgemini is Lewis was working there and persuaded me to join him. So we had a bit of a European powerhouse of developing API knowledge and expertise. And we co-wrote about API Cloud Service, which is now sort of being combined into the Cloud Native Gateway as well. And then this last year, I have bitten the bullet and gone solo. And I'm writing about something called Fluentd, which is about logging and log management. One of those less sexy areas of IT, but very important and becoming more so as we become more and more distributed, more and more dynamic in our scaling. So I'm working on that at the moment.
So I've never heard about that. What is that? Just speak a little bit more about that. What is that involved?
So there are quite a few products out on the market, and including open source solutions. The one I'm concentrating on is called Fluentd. And I'm working with Fluentd. It's a highly extensible framework, but it's graduated from the CNCF community in the same way as Kubernetes has.
Okay.
And it's one of the default options within Kubernetes logging. So capturing logs to a central location to be able to do log analysis across all of your containers is been the driving force behind Fluentd's growth. And as it happens, Oracle are developing a logging product for Oracle Cloud. And that's due out, I believe, later this year, and that actually leverages Fluentd as well. So there's quite an interesting synergy potentially there. But Fluentd itself is open source as a solution and highly flexible, but it also works like APIs in many respects. It is not tied to cloud. We tend to associate it with cloud-based technologies, but logging is just as important whether you're in a classic client server setup with one app server and a database, or even just working within the database using an ORDS Apex-based solution. You want to get your log information out, you want to get it to the right places. And in larger organizations, you often have different teams doing different things. So you've got the DevOps team wanting to understand how an application works. So how do you get the logs to them? But at the same time, you'll have a security team that got dedicated tooling. So they want to see the logs, particularly the logs about what's happening in terms of user actions or the volume of events. So if someone's trying to probe your firewall, then people want to bring those logs together to see what's going on holistically. And that's what Fluentd is all about, is this ability to gather the logs from diverse sources, bring it together so that you can do this analysis and look at your environment holistically, whether you're a DevOps person or a security person, but allow them to use their preferred tool for the analysis side of things. So that could be Oracle's log analytics engine or Splunk or both, for example.
Interesting. Never heard of it. Okay. Well, I learned something. Absolutely every interview, I learned something new. I have a lot to learn, believe me.
It's a lifelong journey of learning when you're in IT.
So you're writing about this. How long would you take to write a book on this?
But it seems to be, from the 3 that I've been involved with now, writing seems to take about 9 months. The first, you go sort of ebbs and flows. It can take quite a while to get going once you're getting all the agreements and working out what the contents of the book are going to be. And then you'll go through quite a surge of getting through chapters, getting them written for the first draft. And then you slow down a bit as you go through the review cycles to edit and manipulate and refine the book and make sure that you're hitting home with your messages. And then there's a big push at the end to get it out, because there's always those last little details that need to be addressed. And there's a big push because we've set the date to say, right, we're going to the printers on this date. You need to get on and finalize those last little corrections.
Right.
So
Interesting, interesting. All right. Well, Phil, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm really glad that we had this chance to talk, and I'm glad that you're presenting to the Yatra here for the first time. I'm sure the community actually will get a lot out of what you have to say. And yeah, good luck on your talks, and hopefully,
Thank you.
Next year, the year after, maybe the year after that, hopefully sometime in the future. We'll hook
We'll
up
actually
at
get to
some.
meet. Yeah.
Actually get to meet live, yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.
Lovely. Thanks very much.
Bye bye.
Speak to you soon, hopefully. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.